Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we're jumping right into this one because we are exploring a tool that's completely flipping the script on massive data warehouses. For years now, the whole conversation in the data world has been entirely about scale, right? We're talking petabytes, massive clusters, just immense compute power. But what if that's actually the wrong conversation for most of us? What if the real key to a better data workflow isn't getting bigger, but getting smarter and honestly, a whole lot more user-friendly? Today, we're breaking down a deep dive, hands-on experience with MotherDuck. It's a platform built on DuckDB, and it is seriously challenging everything we thought we knew about modern data infrastructure.
Now look, I totally get it. Usually, the immediate reaction to yet another data tool is pure skepticism. As the creator of our source material initially put it, why do I need another data warehouse? I use BigQuery and I'm really happy. And that's super valid. When industry absolute giants like BigQuery and Snowflake already dominate the space and do a fantastic job, looking elsewhere kind of feels unnecessary. But as you'll see in just a minute, digging even a little bit deeper reveals a massive shift happening right under our noses.
Because the crucial paradigm shift is right here. We have this industry-wide obsession with petabyte-scale compute. But let's be real about the dirty little secret no one wants to talk about. Most workloads out there are actually pretty small, especially when you're talking about business intelligence and customer-facing analytics. I mean, think about it. By the time you're querying for a dashboard, you've already processed, filtered, and normalized all your raw data. You absolutely don't need a massive, heavy-lifting compute engine firing up for every single everyday query. And MotherDuck positions itself exactly here. They optimize for those regular, everyday BI workloads that actually make up the vast majority of a business's daily data tasks. So let's see how this actually builds into the architecture and philosophy behind MotherDuck. Which brings us to Section 1, Meeting MotherDuck and DuckDB.
There is this marketing phrase from MotherDuck, and it's absolutely brilliant: making big data feel small. It perfectly captures their whole goal. They aren't trying to intimidate you with the sheer, terrifying volume of data they can process. Instead, they're hyper-focused on making customer-facing analytics totally approachable. It's all about offloading that heavy back-end crunching at the start of your pipeline and giving you a highly effective, super cost-beneficial solution for that last mile of data modeling and querying.
And this is where their underlying architecture gets really fascinating. MotherDuck uses a per-user tenancy model, providing what they adorably call a duckling. So what's a duckling? It's essentially an isolated DuckDB instance that's provisioned exactly for the size of your specific workload. In traditional data warehouses, you know the drill. You're dealing with complex slot provisioning, which really doesn't scale down well at all. You end up massively over-provisioned for small tasks. MotherDuck fixes this right out of the gate by giving you exactly what you need, heavily leveraging the fact that DuckDB is an in-memory, incredibly lightweight technology. What's super cool is how their sizing model actually works in practice. You aren't playing a guessing game with slots. You literally just pick your duckling size. You've got Pulse for quick ad hoc analytics, Standard for your common everyday BI stuff, then it scales right up. Jumbo for heavy loads, Mega for complex workloads like machine learning with columnar data, all the way up to Giga for the absolute toughest transformations. It gives you a really nice level of predictable performance and, more importantly, a direct cost benefit. Why? Because you are never stuck paying for a massive cluster when all you needed was a quick ad hoc read. But hey, architecture is only half the story. Where MotherDuck truly positions itself to disrupt the modern data stock is in the actual interface.
Let's dive into Section 2, a frictionless user experience.
Let's shift gears and look at what this actually feels like for technical product managers and data engineers using it every day. The user experience is just packed with these delightful little surprises that actively reduce friction. First off, they use this great notebook aesthetic for SQL queries. Now, while Python notebooks can sometimes get a little clunky, separating SQL queries into clean, independent cells actually makes perfect sense for analytics. On top of that, the UI has these built-in mini graphs and spark lines hovering right over your data columns. You get instant interactive data distribution overlays, like a histogram showing the breakdown of your scores, and you don't even need to write a separate query for it. And the whole shebang is wrapped up in this playful, duck-themed branding that feels innocent and approachable, instead of aggressively hyper-technical and sterile. But listen, do not let the playful branding fool you into thinking it lacks power. Far from it. Take a look at this NYC taxi dataset query. The UI just effortlessly breezes through querying a service request table containing 32.5 million rows. It processes it without a single hitch, immediately spits out the data, and throws in those incredibly useful visual distributions right on top of it. And here's the kicker. It does all of that right there on the free tier. Speaking of the free tier, our source highlights this incredibly cool moment. the AI autofix surprise. We've all been there. You run a slightly malformed query, and boom, you get a generic, frustrating error code that forces you to go digging through endless documentation. Well, in MotherDuck, their built-in AI instantly pops up, suggests the exact correct fix, and gives you a button to just accept and run it. It's a tiny detail, but eliminating that kind of friction is an absolute game changer for a developer's flow state.
And this brilliantly illustrates a much larger point, perfectly captured in this quote from the source material. I really like synthesizers, and synthesizers have a vibe. MotherDuck is this experience. It just has a vibe to it. You know, it is so incredibly rare for a developer tool to actually prioritize the feel of the experience. We're all just so used to sterile, utilitarian, clunky interfaces where you just have to grit your teeth and endure the endless menu diving. MotherDuck proves that enterprise tools can, and frankly absolutely should, feel good to use.
Okay, let's move on to Section 3, Powerful Data Integrations.
So the UI is gorgeous and has a great vibe, but how does it actually handle real data pipelines and connections? In a lot of older enterprise warehouses, setting up data integrations can be this cumbersome multi-step nightmare. But in MotherDuck, reading an iceberg table from an S3 bucket takes essentially 3 frictionless steps. Use a built-in function called iceberg scan straight in your SQL, which, by the way, feels as sleek as using a Python function. You point it at your S3 bucket, and boom! It automatically creates a queryable table. It is blindingly fast and requires exactly 0 tedious menu configuration. And the exact same thing goes for local files. If you've got a local JSON file full of dummy synthetic data, uploading it is entirely effortless. You just point MotherDuck to the file, and it automatically creates the table and detects the schema for you. No agonizing over strict formatting rules that usually cause uploads to just crash and burn in other platforms. It just works, keeping you entirely in your flow. Now, when it's finally time to share that data with your team, MotherDuck offers a seriously next-level UI experience. Rather than navigating some labyrinth of IAM permissions and public access folders, you just click Share on a database. That generates a discoverable URL. You shoot that URL over to a teammate, and literally all they have to do is run the attach command in their own MotherDuck SQL notebook. Because everyone gets their own isolated instance, this attach method is just an incredibly clever, secure, and remarkably simple way to share data models across a whole organization. All right, let's get down to brass tacks in Section 4, Pricing and Cost Benefits.
So we know we have an intuitive, fast, and powerful tool, but is it actually accessible for everyday data practitioners, or is this just another massive budget drainer? Well, the number 10 is your magic number here. MotherDuck's incredibly generous free tier comes with a massive 10 gigabytes of storage and 10 compute unit hours. For a vast majority of analysts out there working on basic projects and small BI workloads, you are never going to exceed this. You get the slick UI, the AI autofix, the blistering speed, all for literally 0 cost to get started. And when you do finally need to scale up to a team, the base cost is surprisingly accessible. We're talking just $25 a month to lock in a plan for an organization of up to 5 people, plus a very low usage fee. When you compare that to the massive, unpredictable bills generated by fully provisioned legacy data warehouses, this is a huge relief for anyone currently experiencing serious cloud cost fatigue. So let's quickly summarize our core takeaways here. MotherDuck isn't just another warehouse. It's a direct, targeted response to the biggest pain points of the modern data stack. It actively fixes cloud cost fatigue by sizing compute to exactly what you need. It recognizes that optimizing for small, everyday BI workloads is what businesses actually want and need right now. It completely eliminates UI friction and menu diving with intuitive notebook cells, instant visual distributions, and that awesome AI assistant. And finally, it proves that developer tools can actually have a playful vibe. Which brings us to our final thought for today. We've literally spent a decade obsessing over who can crunch the most petabytes the absolute fastest. But seeing how effortless and honestly enjoyable data analysis becomes when a tool actually respects the user's time and experience, I have to ask, is the data world finally ready to prioritize user experience and vibe over massive petabyte scale? It certainly seems like MotherDuck is betting big on it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked some curiosity for you to rethink your own data tools, and I'll catch you all next time.